Hello, how are you? This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn LaVern, and this is, one street over. What's going on one street over from where you live in? It is Memorial Day. And I'm one of these people, I don't like to say Happy Memorial Day. I just like to say, I hope you have a good Memorial Day, and I hope you spend some time remembering those who paid the price for us. My wonderful husband, Mark Vivio, my chauffeur this morning, drove me, not because it's, that I had to have.
It's a little foggy out there.
It is kind of foggy out there, but, there's nothing going on this morning. And I like to, a lot of people, some would take the day off, but I really very intentionally, for very many years now, I have liked to come in and do the show because I have a couple of things I have written that I like to share with people. And if you've heard them before, I apologize, but I'm going to tell the story of Terry Smith, and I'm going to tell the story of my friend Kenneth Pease that died when I was just a little kid. And so these are two people that, Terry, I learned his story after I got to know the Hagans. And honestly, I knew Donna and John Hagan for a very long time before I knew Terry's story. And I guess I don't really know how it comes up, but that's not something that you lead with when you get to know people. You know that I have a brother that was a hero and has a gymnasium named for him because he sacrificed his life to save a helicopter full of people in Vietnam. It's a pretty profound story. And so nonetheless, but Kenneth, I have told that story to anybody who will listen because as a young kid, I don't know, it just kind of became a thing for me when I was little. I wanted to make sure people didn't forget Kenneth, because he died so young. And so I've shared his story a lot over the years. But nonetheless, we're going to spend a little bit of time doing that this morning. Again, I hope you spend some time this Memorial Day remembering why you have the day off. Now, we have the day off because we're teachers, and we're a little bit giddy about it. We're very excited to have this time. This is really our first summer to be able to go, we're teachers. We got the summer off because we had a lot of stress last year, and I've shared with people some of that, but we're not going to go there because I don't want to get into it.
And the year before, it was just my first summer. I didn't, I spent it.
You were in school.
Yeah.
Trying
to get my degree
yes,
to teach and stuff. Yeah.
Well, and we're CTE teachers, career and technical education teachers, which I didn't even know was a thing until they.
CTE, coolest teachers ever.
You're such a goober. Coolest teachers ever. I kind of like that. So, but I didn't realize CTE was even a thing until I had applied to start looking into becoming an I say ESL because English Second Language is something you and I had worked with for quite a while. Actually had a encounter this weekend because of our ESL experience.
And because she does not understand Egyptian language.
No. There's so many things here. Guys, we could talk about. But
it's Memorial Day.
It is Memorial Day. And but I wanted to be an ELL teacher because I had fallen in love with my friends from Egypt, and I had a chance to teach a young man from the Congo who had been a refugee there. Just beautiful, beautiful people. I've had so many friends that were either Hispanic or from Mexico or from Honduras or from Peru or different places like that. Latinos just in general, and helping them go from Spanish to English. And you would think over the years that I would have gleaned something from it. I did not. I still just speak English, but just some amazingly beautiful people. So I wanted to, do ELL, and then they filled me in on what CTE was. And so I was all in. I thought, this is great. I can, share with the kids the industry that I have been in.
The 75 years that you were in radio.
Yeah, no. I was U-Turn LaVern for 28 years and in Nashville for 28 years. And I don't know how many years. I've been on the radio since 1980. I mean, I had a few years off between the Blaze and doing this. But, for all practical purposes, I've been in radio since 1980. So there you go.
75 years, yeah.
Long time. But with that said, the things we want to talk about today, we want to focus on Memorial Day. I just don't think any of us spend enough time really thinking about it. Yesterday, Don Wall did a thing at church, and he was talking about how that when he was a kid, it was Dedication Day. Or Decoration Day. Decoration Day, because you go out and you would decorate the graves of those who have fallen, and it was in the 70s that it became Memorial Day. I didn't remember the dates on that. I thought it had gone from Decoration Day to Memorial Day much earlier than that. Did you? I mean, when he said that,
I said seven. He said 71. So I mean,
was it 71? Yeah, and you figure I was born in 62, so I was just
so it wasn't time that we would have remembered them making a change like that.
And I wonder if it had something to do with what was happening with Vietnam, that we had lost so many soldiers. I wonder. But nonetheless, he mentioned that, and I thought, okay, I didn't really remember that happening. Do you have anybody in your mind that you remember? See,
that's the thing. Kenneth? I do not have anybody that's at the top of my list, but it's one of those things that today I wanted to call my brothers and sisters, my older brothers and sisters, that would have been in Vietnam. They would have remembered, they were younger, but they would have remembered somebody going off like you remembered Kenneth from our community. I do not.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that's probably one of the charges I give people today. Go find out somebody in your family or somebody you knew.
Well, then we have Uncle Cooch.
But I'm just saying somebody that passed away.
Yeah, but I'm saying he knew a lot of people. And I mean, he would be the one, Uncle Cooch is the one that I'm going to link before the day is over, the story, a story from Memorial Day that I wrote. I have a series that I'm about to republish, and I don't know. One of our kids yesterday said, "So when are you going to get this podcast going, Mom?" And that you and I are going to do. And I said, as soon as possible. So there's a lot of things that I really feel I want to do, and one of them is to get these books going again. And I wrote one for Jedediah when he was in basic training, when he went into the Army. And I tied it into Uncle Cooch's story, Kenneth Vivio, and tell them a little bit about Kenneth. Tell them a little bit about Uncle Cooch.
Oh, Uncle Cooch. I mean, he's always been, right across the street from me. I mean, I grew up, we had one street between us. He had the original house that my dad grew up in, and my dad built a house right across the street. Mm-hmm. So Uncle Cooch has always been there. Uncle Cooch was a hero. I mean, he basically was Special Forces Green Beret. If you don't understand what Green Beret is, basically what they do is they are a force multiplier is what they're considered. They go into an area and try to train locals. So you take 1 or 2 or 3 men in the Green Beret Special Forces that have the knowledge, the wisdom, and the skills to go in and train 100, 150, 200 men to protect their own families. And that is basically what they did early in Vietnam, was to go in and try to train the locals to protect themselves against the communist movement that was coming their way. Mm-hmm. And so he went in early. I mean, basically, from what I always thought he had made major, but the last time we talked to him, he was captain. But I mean, that's still pretty high up in the military for being a soldier. Right. He didn't go in as a officer, so he had worked his way up pretty high in the military. I mean, and he pretty sharp dude,
Well, and he's fun to talk to now because I mean, that's what I'm saying though. But he would be able to point you to some people in that community. I think he.
Oh, I'm sure
he would be. When you talk about calling your siblings, I think but you could call and talk to Uncle Cooch, and he could tell you all those who were there in Vietnam, and could help you to.
It just seems weird. It's kind of like you think of the people that you can and cannot talk to on the phone.
Is he one of them that would be hard to talk to?
I don't know. I've never talked to him on the phone. It's like face-to-face conversation. I've never sat down.
That's funny.
So it's like my sister. I get on the phone with her. I can't get her off the phone. We're on the phone for an hour and a half. My brothers, they're like me. It's like what, bye. But I've never talked to Uncle Cooch on the phone.
Yeah, but he would be one that would definitely fill you in on all the the ins and outs of the different things that happened in the community. But Cooch, he is somebody that knows Vietnam very well.
Oh yeah.
And so, but anyway, but to kind of recap what we're talking about this morning is the memories that we have that make us go, this is Memorial Day. This is a time to remember those who have paid the ultimate price, and not just an opportunity to hang out with your family and eat hot dogs and hamburgers and go swimming.
Which is what it's turned into.
That's just it. It is.
We used to have Memorial Day parades, and
well, they still do. I don't know of ones around.
I mean, my little town, we had 1,600 people.
Yeah.
One of my earliest memories is Uncle Cooch putting together a Indianapolis race car with a Harley Davidson engine in it, and me driving it in the Memorial Day parade.
As a little kid.
That's
hysterical. And that's one thing I love about your hometown. It's got that Americana feel to it, and it still does. I was a little disappointed when we were up there for 4th of July last year for Uncle Cooch's birthday, and I was disappointed because they did not have the horses
in the parade. Yeah, they were afraid that they were going to stampede.
I don't know, but I got to tell you, that's one of the best things about that parade up there is the big Belgians and the big Percherons that they would have in the parade, and it was just cool.
Yeah,
and that's something too out of Mark's background, that their family had those horses forever, and your brother pulled them, and we would get to go up there and see those.
Speaking of,
what?
Remember we went to Bowling Green a couple years ago? We have to talk about that.
Is that coming up?
That's coming up.
Oh, there's a big horse pool up in Bowling Green, and they have the big monster horses. That would be if he had something that he would really like to do, is to have some of those horses to where we could show them around here and stuff. They're an awful lot.
A lot of work, and at my age,
and at our age too, it would be That'd
be like trying to raise children again. I don't think I'd want to do that.
Okay, well let's get back on track.
Back to Memorial Day.
So that was the question that I asked Mark. Said, do you remember anybody? Well, the reason I remember Kenneth was because he was our hired hand, and he was always there. I don't remember a time when I was young that Kenneth wasn't around, because he was not. My parents, weren't a whole lot older than him, and that he was he would come in after school and work. He would work in the summers for my dad, and one of my big memories is whenever we were kids, whenever they would farm, we would go to the field and play on. They would have lime down there that they put on the crops, and we would play on those piles of lime.
Yeah,
and we would play on that down by the creek. On the Mayfield Creek ran through the bottomland that my parents farmed, and Daddy and Kenneth be down there. Mama would be there because she would probably be on a tractor at some point, disking ahead of the planting or something to that degree. And my sister and I would be playing on that lime. Now my brother was a little bit like an infant, so he was still little bitty. So mother was probably taking care of him, but we would go hang out in the field, and I can remember Daddy and Kenneth finding some puppies in the woods, because we had a big problem with wild dogs, and they would have babies in the woods. And so I never really, had to go to the main shelter or find somebody to get me a puppy. We'd find them in the woods. And I had a lot of wild dogs that were pups that became my dogs when I was a little kid. And so we had several dogs, and Dad and Kenneth found some puppies on the corner of the woods. And they were hiding them in their shirts because they didn't want Mom to see them, because I'm sure Mom would be like, do not bring any more dogs up here, kind of thing. And I remember him and Daddy giggling with those puppies in the shirt, because they knew if they showed them to me and my sister, all bets were off, because we'd be like, oh, one of the puppies. So, that's one of my most vivid memories of Kenneth. But I also too is the memory that when he came, I can remember like it was yesterday, him pulling in the driveway to tell us that he was going to Vietnam, and he had been drafted. And he didn't say that at the time, but I remember him seeming excited about it. But what would he be to a little kid? He's not going to be like, I'm going to Vietnam and I'm scared, because that would frighten me. So I remember him being excited about it. I remember he had a girl with him, and I just remember him pulling out of the driveway, and I was like, oh, I'm so proud of him. I'll never forget it. And it just seemed like it had been days when we got the phone call and I remember Mother getting the phone call and getting just really upset immediately and putting all of us kids in the car and us driving to the field. And as I've told this story again and again, when a car goes into the field, at least back in the 60s, you knew something was wrong. And so we drove down the field, and Daddy was on the tractor, and we pulled up to the edge of the field, and he parked the tractor like middle of wherever he was doing, just stopped. Because apparently it wasn't like he was going to be on the edge of anything. And so he just stopped where he was and walked across the field. Mother met him, and they just grieved. And Kenneth had died, and he had stepped on a landmine. And years later, I had gone to a sale. His parents had passed, and they were having the family sale there on the road that goes up toward Lowe's, and where I went to high school. And I remember watching the auction and seeing a helmet. And when the auctioneer, I was kind of surprised that they were selling it. And I even asked the brothers if they minded me bidding on it, and they did not. And so, I was able I remember the auctioneer saying something about, this is from the Vietnam era. And I thought, yeah, it's Kenneth's. And sure enough, I was able to get that helmet. And so I have one of his helmets. And so the kids kind of grew up knowing the story of Kenneth, seeing that helmet. And it was just so interesting when Jedediah went into the Army. Kenneth served in the Army, and so did Uncle Cooch. And so I put together a story while Jedediah was in basic training for his time serving, and I've called it a tale for Memorial Day. And I tie the fact that he knew the story of Kenneth and he knew Uncle Cooch, and that helped inspire him, and it absolutely did inspire him to go into the military.
In reality, even.
Yes. Yeah. But now I did a fictitious story along with that of them as kids and an adventure in the Upper Peninsula, riding an amphibious vehicle that our Uncle Cooch built, which he did.
But the boys never got to ride.
Yeah, the boys never got to ride in it. He got to ride in it, but the boys never got to ride in it because it was before their time. And then I also tell a story of a hot air balloon that his brother concocted, because he's somewhat like Cooch. Yeah. He's kind of got that same kind of
engineer. He's a pipe fitter.
Yeah, but so he's always coming up with something, but he did not do a hot air balloon. It was just something to make the story, something to tell. And also to tie in the fact that Uncle Cooch was a jump master and taught, jumping out of planes.
Jump out perfectly good planes.
And that was something Jedediah was on when he went in, he was supposed to be going to Ranger assessment. Yeah. And they misdirected him because they had a bunch of Marines in there learning to jump. And so they sent him down to El Paso, and then they're like, well, you're supposed to come back up here. And then they decided not to. And so he got kind of disillusioned with the whole package because he ended up being in longer based upon his contract that said he was going to be under Ranger assessment, and then he didn't get an opportunity to. So he was a little frustrated, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter.
Army intelligence.
He was supposed to be learning to jump. And so that's why I put that in that story. Now, he never jumped out of a plane. I don't guess he ever will. But that was his original intention, was to go he wanted to at least get assessed for Rangers, and that he would have had some jump training. And so that's that story. It's called A Tale for Memorial Day. And I'm not going to read that because it is way too long. But it ties all that together. It ties the story of Uncle Cooch and my son and his inspiration to go in the Army, and it ties some things in with
But it will be available on Amazon.
Well, I mean, you can go and read it free. I mean, it's on Medium. It's on.
No, we want to sell it.
I linked it. I mean, it's on my page. You can go in there and read it. So if you want to read a little bit about that, because in the fictitious side of it, just know the amphibious vehicle and the hot air balloon, that's all made up. But Cooch did build an amphibious vehicle.
6-wheel, fiberglass.
He really did.
It floated, it drove down.
Oh, and there's also two in there. I talk about Cooch and his snow thrower. It was almost terrifying. And that really happened. Yes. And he was an ice road trucker.
Yes.
He was. Yeah. And so those things are true. I always try to put at the end of my Po Billy stories, and I put Po Billy realisms. Po Billy realisms. And so I write the things that inspire the story, so you know the things that are absolutely true in the Po Billy stories, because there's always a grain of truth in them. I'm working on one right now that's going to tie in a snowstorm. And it really happened. I'm also going to do one.
It's Memorial Day.
I know. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But nonetheless, go in and read that if you would like. It's a tale for Memorial Day. So I'm not going to read that, but I am going to read to you the story of Terry Smith. I call it He Might Have Been a Disc Jockey, and I'll explain why I say that. I say he might have been a disc jockey because he was a radio operator.
You might want to do an ad.
So I was just about to do that.
Are you? Well, I'm just trying to make sure you do your job.
Doing my job. My husband's keeping me on track. But this is why we're going to do a podcast together, is because I need somebody to reel me in sometimes.
Sometimes?
Because I can get off into I talk about the podcast. The podcast that we're going to do is ministry stuff. I've been studying a lot of ministry type content and a lot of archaeology and those kinds of things. And
she loves digging up the past.
I know. But anyway, that's what it's going to be based upon. It's not going to be on just the stuff we do on one street over. But let's go ahead and, like he said, let's do an ad, and let's start with Valor Mortgage. My friend Chris Armentrout, met him a month and a half ago, I guess, and was so tickled when he decided we were talking about needing some advertisers, and he was like, hey, I'd love to do this. And he's a perfect fit because we have Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. They're always, one of the first things they tell you if you're going to buy a home is you got to get pre-qualified. And, Barry said, if you can find a local lender to get pre-qualified with, that is the route to go, because he says one of the worst things you can do is dial these 1-800 numbers and just become a number. So with Valor Mortgage, guys, you will be working with a team of experienced loan officers that are going to work so hard to find the right mortgage solution for your life, your budget, and your goals. Now, maybe it's not that you're wanting to buy a new home or buy your first home. Maybe you're wanting to do some investment, or you wanting to do a refinancing. You're wanting to invest in your future. Well, Valor Mortgage, they're ready to serve you, and they have got everything you need. VA loans, FHA options, conventional and jumbo financing. They have all the tools to get you to the closing table to meet your goals. As they say, they're not just in the business of mortgages, they're in the business of making home ownership possible for everyone, and all the options that you want available for everyone. They have an office in downtown, just a couple of doors down from our new theater that we're so excited about. But Chris will tell you that they're out and about all the time meeting with wonderful folks like yourself. So he said the best way to work with them, just give them a call, and they'll set up an appointment and meet with you. You can pop in and see if you can catch them in the office, but the best thing is to always give them a phone call, and they'll set up a time to meet with you. You can call them at 615-671-9178. That's 615-671-9178. Or go to valor.mortgage to get pre-approved today, because when it matters most, you deserve a lender you can trust. Buy with confidence. Buy with Valor. Valor Mortgage, NMLS, number 1210804. DBA of Encore Lending Group, NMLS, 1249911. Equal housing lender, subject to credit approval. Rates and terms subject to change without notice. Not a commitment to lend. Very good. Awesome. You got anything to say?
Nope.
You have the floor.
I don't have anything to say.
You don't have anything to say?
No, you know me. I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
I keep my mouth shut.
Well, my husband, Mark Vivio, is here to help me out with a special Memorial Day show. I do this one every year. And and I hope that, as we have said, you will be intentional about getting to know somebody who paid the ultimate price. And, the thing is with, we just recently lost something like 10 soldiers, I think, since the Iran war had started. Mm-hmm. We, lost some when the base was hit. And then we lost an entire crew of folks that were trying to refuel a plane, and that one really hit close to home because my daughter-in-law's brother, that's what he does, and he is deployed, and so that was just very scary. And so many of these folks I know Aaron Slate has a friend that was killed when he was deployed. There were people that were deployed with Jedediah when he was in Afghanistan that didn't get to come home. So, I mean, it's one of those things. You don't have to go far, is my point, to find somebody that can tell you a story about somebody who paid the ultimate price, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So as if you can, just do some research, find somebody, just show them the respect that they deserve.
And if you know of any events as far as Memorial Day services or parades or anything like that are going on in the community, please send those to me in comments and let me know. Maybe if you would research that while I'm reading through Terry's story, if you don't mind. And of course, my allergies are kicking me this morning. And this is not a super short story, but I tried to share this. What happened with this is I will from time to time blog and, just write articles that are on my mind. And if you go to my webpage, LaVernVivio.com, you can link all this. And there's a link called Best of the Blog. Now, you will see from the pictures on my page, I have not updated my website in a long time because when I last updated that website, I had one grandchild. I'll have 5 and 2 more on the way. So I got to do some work on my webpage. But the links are all still there, and they're all still good. You can go Best of the Blog, and you can go directly to some of the ones that I get the most requests for. And this one, he might have been a disc jockey, is one of those. Anyway, I'm going to try to get through this without my allergies getting me. But this is the story of Terry Smith, and again, this is Donna Hagen's brother. Okay. Here it goes. He might have been a disc jockey. Silly, I know, but that's the first thing that came to mind when I heard about Corporal Terry Smith. Hang on, it just blinked out on me. I'm reading it from online, and it just decided to be weird, y'all. Hang on a second. I just lost my link, Mark.
Sorry.
Hang on. Let me try again. He might have been a disc jockey. Silly, I know, but that's the first thing that came to mind when I heard about Corporal Terry Smith. Anytime I hear about a very young soldier who paid the ultimate price so I can live free, I immediately think about the life that might have been, the life that they never got to live. And when I think about Terry, it makes me wonder if the job he had as a soldier might have been part of his life after Vietnam, if he had made it home. You see, Terry was a radio operator. If you visit the Marine Museum in Guantanamo. No, that's not it.
Guantanamo?
No, Quantico. That's it. I knew it would come out. I am so sorry, y'all.
No M in it.
Okay. If you visit the Marine Museum in Quantico, you might get a feel for what that meant in Vietnam. At the museum, they have an exhibit that allows you to share an echo of the experience. As you walk through the belly, off the back ramp of the helicopter and into the combat zone, you can feel the heat and hear the noise. You will see a radio operator at the controls of a handheld transmitter working diligently to acquire a signal that will allow his platoon to communicate with the incoming and outgoing air support. Terry's sister, Donna Hagen, said her first visit to the exhibit was overwhelming as she stepped into the world that had cost her brother her life. Every time I read that, I can just see Donna being at that exhibit. I've been through some exhibits sometimes that just take me to a place that's just hard. And losing her brother in that way, I cannot imagine walking through that display and walking into that and what that must have done to her. And again, I'm that's not in the blog, but I just, every time I read that, I think about that. Terry's tour of duty lasted only 7 months, actually just under 7 months. But in that time, he set himself apart as a Marine who ran into battle and never retreated from it. And I encourage you to go and pull up the blog because there's a lot of pictures. There's pictures of Terry. There's a picture of Donna with Terry when she's little. So Now, not all some of the pictures I got just offline, but there are pictures of Terry in there. But at the time of his death, Terry and his platoon had been receiving constant fire from the North Vietnamese. Unable to broadcast a signal to warn off the approaching chopper carrying young lives, Terry sacrificed his life to run into the middle of the battle and wave off the approaching CH-46 helicopter. Terry had been working communications for Hill 88-1 South near Quezon Combat Base. He had actually been moved out of the heavy fire, but insisted they return him to the hill. His friends were there, and he knew he could help. They were under constant surveillance and attacked by the North Vietnamese army. The enemy knew the only means of resupplying the soldiers of Hill 881 South was by air. The attacks were constant, and the most effective attacks came by mortar fire targeted at incoming and outgoing air support. According to an epilogue recorded by retired USMC Colonel William H. Bill Dabney, the platoon had developed an action routine they labeled Super Gaggle. Super Gaggle involved the coordination of the communication personnel, the CH-46 crew, and the HST, the helicopter support team, working together to facilitate loading and unloading the helicopter in breathtakingly short 25 to 30 second windows of time. Colonel Dabney described a scene where the crew on the ground could usually hear the firing tube pop, and in that moment they knew they had 25 seconds before the shell would hit its potential target. It was a moment just like that when Corporal Smith was unable to alert the incoming chopper of the danger. He restrained another soldier, preventing him from running into the mortar fire, went out himself, waving off the chopper in time to save those on board, but was unable to take cover and save himself. For his heroics on that day, he died. Terry was awarded the Silver Star, the third highest military decoration for valor awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces. Corporal Smith also received the Purple Heart, the Vietnamese Military Merit, and Cross of Gallantry medals, and was honored with the Tennessee Proclamation designating Corporal Terry L. Smith Day. And I've got pictures of that in this blog if you want to go see it. And there is a gymnasium at Henderson Hall in Arlington that is named the Terry L. Smith Gymnasium in his honor. PFC Terry L. Smith was awarded the Navy Commendation Medal for his actions on September 8, 1967, showing clearly his intent to place others above himself time and time again. Terry was serving as a radio operator when his unit came under intense rocket fire. The citation states he stayed dangerously exposed under heavy attack, using his radio skills to call for the evacuation of their wounded and to call for airstrikes against the hostile positions. He was thrown to the ground by explosions of enemy rounds and rockets 3 times, but each time regained his footing and stayed in the hazardous positions. But it was many years after his death before Terry's family was made aware of all the medals and citations that Terry had been awarded. His personal effects and the paperwork regarding his awards had apparently been destroyed from rocket attacks. And after the war, a friend of Terry's visited with the family and asked about the medals he knew Terry had received, but he did not see them on display. Once Colonel Dabney was made aware of the oversight, a ceremony to honor Terry was held and the awards were presented. But as Terry's mom, dad, and sister, Donna, left the ceremony, they were walking across the grounds, and an odd gust of wind, similar to a dust devil, but in this instance should be more appropriately called a dust angel, caught the award and took it away. Completely away. They never found it. Donna told me it felt as if Terry had come down, grabbed it, as if to say, about time. I think that maybe that is what all of those who paid the price and made the ultimate sacrifice for freedom, if they could, say, about time. Don't you think? It's about time that we not only acknowledge the fact that so many died for the thing we call freedom, but it's about time we take a moment to learn their stories and share them with others. It's about time we make sure we pass the stories of their sacrifice on to those who come after us. But mostly it's about time we take seriously the stewardship of this incredible gift of freedom they have given us and stand in their honor to defend it. Happy Memorial Day. God bless. Los Dios Solo Dio Gloria. To God be the glory. I used to put on all my blogs. That was something I got from Glenn. But anyway, nonetheless, that is, to me, that kind of sums up Memorial Day. That story does. And I hope you'll spend time maybe reading and sharing that, because that to me, that is somebody. Everybody knows the Hagans. They ran the Springfield Drugs for years and years and years and years and years, and all of us knew them and spent time in there. And I don't think very many people really knew the story that Donna carried with her, losing her brother in that way. And it's so interesting because. And I like to tell this when I talk about Terry, because just in case something turns up, we had they'd go to church with us up at Madison Church Christ, and we had a big yard sale for the Hispanic ministry, I guess, and this has been many years ago, but I was still on Nashville radio, and I haven't been on Nashville radio since 2012, so it's been a minute, but Donna and John have always been some of the most generous people I've ever met. And they had some things in their attic that they wanted to contribute and let them sell at this fundraiser for the Hispanic ministry. And so they just left the house open. They're just very hospitable, and they're just like, just go in the house and go upstairs and get some stuff and take it and sell it. Well, the people were not supposed to get a piece that was a hope chest that was in there. They had told them what to get. And again, language barriers, things like that. They ended up taking a hope chest out of the attic and putting it in the sale. And the only reason that people realized what had happened is because John's diplomas were in that and had gotten laid out on the ground. They found, somebody at the yard sale found this big sale, found John's diplomas, and they called John and said, "Hey, John, your diplomas are laying out here in the parking lot at this sale." And he's like, "What?" And so they had gotten this hope chest. Well, inside that hope chest were the letters that Terry had written Donna, and they have never been seen since. So if you happen to come across that hope, who knows what happened to them? Who knows what happened to them? But I just kind of feel like they might be out there. But it was Terry writing Donna, and if anybody comes across those, I know where they go. I know who they belong to. But anyway, what were you going to say?
Your
Memorial Day events.
Thank
you. I had given him a task while I was reading.
Well,
Good job.
You know who gave them to us? Lee Marie, your researcher. Basically today at 9:00 here in town at Austin Bell Funeral Home at 2619 US 41 North in Greenbrier, hosted by the American Legion Post 45, is going to be a Memorial Day ceremony. We also have one at 10:30, Memorial Day ceremony in White House at the Recreation Center at 105 College Street in White House, hosted by the City of White House. And then the big one is going to be at the historic Nashville Cemetery, which is at Gallatin Road and Briley Parkway. It's basically at 1420 Gallatin Pike in Madison. Mm-hmm. Begins at 9 a.m. this morning with music, and then more music at 10. The Boys and Girls Scouts will line the graves with flags. The program actually starts at 11 at the Veteran Service Organization with the national colors and the Marines, the national anthem, Pledge of Allegiance. The 101st Airborne Division will again provide a firings team salute and taps. So that's the Nashville Davidson County Veterans Council and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs at the National Cemetery Administration at Madison starting at 9 and going on till probably about noon. So those are the two local and then the one big one. I'm going to try to do a little research to see if the National Cemetery out west of town, the one that's out there off of Pegram, out towards Pegram,
right?
What they're going to be doing.
Okay, and I'll tell you too, this is something we're going to be stopping by at 10 o'clock this morning at the History Museum here locally. Now, this is not a Memorial Day event, but they are on Memorial Day having the ribbon cutting on this traveling display celebrating 250 years of America. And what a great thing to do on Memorial Day is to go and remember the history, because you think about since the Revolutionary War, the lives that have been lost to give us the freedom to walk around and do what we do. I mean, it's just breathtaking when you think about it. But that's at the museum, our Robertson County Museum downtown. If you're new to the area, it is in you can't miss it. It was the old post office, but it's there on the square. And so in the History Museum this morning at 10 o'clock, they're going to open officially this traveling display. It's only going to be here for a week. So if you want to see this display, you have got to get by there today. There's no admission charge to get in today, but do go in and join and become a member. $15 for an individual, $25 for a family, and then you have free admission to the museum for the entire year. And you also get a discount at the gift shop. And if you're like us and you have all these kids that grew up in Robertson County that have flown the coop and they're not here anymore, but you want to give them mementos and things like that from their home county in their home city, that is a great place to get some great gifts for your family and those that are still here as well. But I find a lot of fun gifts in there for my kids because they're off, doing other things. But that's something that we're going to do today at 10 o'clock. So I hope you'll come by and join us there. With that said, let me go ahead and do the ad for Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. I apologize. My allergies are kicking me this morning. And you know what my husband said too earlier, if you are out and about, it's very foggy this morning. Hopefully that'll burn off pretty quickly, but the visibility not the best as we were heading in this morning. But Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty, if you are looking for anything to do in the real estate market, whether it is buying, whether it's selling, or if you want to be a realtor, let's talk about that for a minute. That is a thing that if you are really wanting to break into the real estate market and you really don't even know where to begin, you need to sit down and have a conversation with Barry and Rebecca. They both came out of different careers and went full-time with real estate. Rebecca, one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist, been at it a while. She was in radiology before she became a realtor. She had gone home to, get her kids into school. And once they got into school and she started wanting to get back out in the workforce, she had gotten interested in real estate. And she researched to make sure that she was with a company that could do everything she needed them to do, that had every T crossed, every I dotted, so that she knew that her needs would be met as a realtor, and that was the Exit Company. So she was with the Garden Gate team for a long time. Her and Barry got together, and now with Brandy Hastings, and they have Exit Prime Realty. They have offices here and in White House. There's a brokerage office here in Springfield that Barry, that is his job. He is the broker here in Springfield. They have an agency office out in White House that Rebecca works from, and they are there to help you out. But the bottom line is they came out of different careers. So if you've been doing something different and you think you want to be a realtor, talk to them about what that looks like and what that transition looks like. And if maybe you're one of the high school kids that just graduated and you're really thinking you want to get into real estate, well, this is a good opportunity for you to sit down and talk with them and to learn the ins and outs and what your next steps are. And this is something I was talking to the two of them at the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival, and I did not realize that there is a business program that the state of Tennessee will pay for. It's kind of along the same lines of our career and technical education programs that we do. But there is a program that the state will pay for while you're in high school if you want to get your real estate license. And that is something that I'm going to bring up to our business teachers at Greenbrier, because I had no idea that even existed. Those are the kinds of conversations you can have with Barry and Rebecca if you're interested in real estate and if you've got a kid that's talking about it. Find out about this program that's available through the high school, through the state, and they can tell you more. And if you're buying a house, if you're selling a house, reach out to them today. Make sure you get pre-qualified before you even start looking so you know how much home you can buy. And make sure you get a free market analysis of your home before you post it, because if you list it too high, you're not going to get any attention on it. And you also need great video, great photography. You need some drone footage, walkthrough tours, and you can get it all with Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. sellwithbecky.com, or by BUYRobertsonCounty.com. 2 ways to get in touch with them. And you can also just Google them, Barry says, and you can give them a call. 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, or 7424, and let them know that you turned Cincha. All right, now here we go. Mr. Vivio, what else are we going to talk about this morning? I've already read the story about Terry Smith, I'll remind you again that is Donna Hagen's brother. I want to invite you to read the story that I put up called A Tale from Memorial Day. And then I hope you'll spend some time with your family today, remembering that your freedom is not without cost. And do you have anything you want to share that you found?
One of the coolest things, I may be making people feel weird, but when I was a kid, we used to go to the cemetery and walk around and look at gravestones. And it's something that you could easily do with a family, is if you go out and take a look at this Middle Tennessee State Veteran Cemetery. I had done some work out there. They have got a beautiful place out there, which is out, west of town. And it's, basically it's a peaceful place, and it's very serene out there, and the landscape is beautiful. And just kind of walk around and see some of this. They're saying here that there's 30,000 plots. Just amazing that's how many soldiers that they can that they're going to put at this place. And there's thousands out there already, families that have been placing their loved ones out there. And then you've got the one downtown, one right there at in Madison. That one's pretty much full. That is a huge facility, and you can just walk around, and there's soldiers in there from the Civil War. You just, it's amazing. You can get on the websites and do research of names and things, and it's just cool to walk around and just see. Some of these guys, their lifespans were only 16 years old. And then you've got some of the other ones that lived a full life, 80, 90 years, and that are buried there. The fact that they actually survived, and it's just a way to go back and look at the reason why America is free, because of the brave men and women that kept us from speaking Japanese or speaking German. If it wouldn't have been for the Americans and our servicemen, those folks would have overrun us. And even though we live thousands of miles away, we get these two big, beautiful oceans, one on our east and one on our west, that are just like having giant fences around us. Our enemies are still out there.
That's a good point, because we just do not, because of our friends in Ukraine, we see how quickly things can turn. But when you've got your enemy on your borders like that, that can just overtake you so quickly, we just don't understand what the threat of war really is, because, except for 9/11 and things like that, we have never really had to face it. Pearl Harbor, but again, the ocean,
it's just Pearl Harbor's a fine example. That is our property, and they attacked us,
right. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, we had friends here, literally here in Robertson County, because they brought their daughter to go to school at Harding. They are from Ukraine. They were in Donetsk whenever Donetsk was invaded.
Originally, years ago.
Had to go into Kyiv, and then Kyiv is attacked. They were here just months before the war started. And so facing that kind of threat all the time, we don't really understand it.
Yeah, we're under different threat. Canada isn't going to attack us. Mexico isn't going to attack us.
We don't see that rolling in here and trying to do what they've done to the people of Ukraine. And you see the threats that people deal with in Nigeria and Sudan and all these things.
All over the world,
threat, that we don't face. Now, do we have terrible things that happen? Absolutely, but we don't have any clue. We don't have any clue what people face in other countries. And it's because of people that we're honoring today. And I hope you will absolutely, spend some time. And that's a really good point. I'm not one to walk around cemeteries. Daddy was. Daddy loved going and looking at that stuff. But what you said about going and looking at their stones and seeing how short their lives were, that really gets your breath. It made me, Kenneth was just 20 years old. And I know Terry was not much older, Terry Smith, Donna Hagen's brother, because so many of them were just barely deployed before they ended up losing their lives. And the ones you were talking about, Civil War, different ones like that, they were babies. I mean, you do have teenagers that were, killed in those wars, in those battles. But it is profound. It is profound. I hope you'll spend some time just really thinking about those lives and not, absolutely have fun. I know Donna said one time, we were talking about how we should present ourselves on Memorial Day. And she said Terry would want you to have fun. He would want you to have a good time. Because that's what he fought for. Because she said there was a commander one time said that heard Terry coming over the radio saying something about they had some of the sweet kids there. He said, we're here because we want these kiddos to have what we have back in Tennessee, to be able to go fishing and enjoy the outdoors. And
you're talking about the kids from Vietnam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was talking about that. And Donna would have to I've asked Donna to come in here a few times on Memorial Day, but she says, I just can't. And cause I get emotional talking about it, and, I just know his story.
Yeah.
It
wasn't blood relative.
Yeah. I can't imagine how hard it would be for her to really sit and talk about Terry. So, maybe one day she'll come in here, but, I will sure share the story for her and share the story of Kenneth, because what my point was, when you talk about those headstones that have just those short years, I don't want these lives to be forgotten. And I want us to suppose, what would they have done if they had gotten to survive?
Yeah.
And another thing, too, I've heard Donna, we talked about, and this is something that Don brought up yesterday whenever he did the memorial thing at church. He talked a lot about Agent Orange, because there were so many that came back from Vietnam wounded, that they didn't know that poison was living in them, and we're losing them at such a high rate right now. And there are several memorials across the country that have been put up to help remember those. And we have, Ken Gamble, of course, has put together the Orange Heart Medal and has done such extraordinary work on that. And we have the memorial that we have up here at Springfield Memorial Gardens, and we have the service there every Vietnam Vets Day. Now, we don't have it on the actual day. We have it the weekend before, but we started that this year. But we have a candlelight service the night before, and then on the Friday before, and then the Saturday we have a presentation out there. But so it's wonderful that we have a place to remember these guys that came in wounded from war, and that are now, being victims of Agent Orange. But Donna told me about one that she saw one time, because, of course, all those that died in Vietnam are on the wall. But she said there's one in one state that shows a soldier walking into the wall. And she said that would have been the hardest thing for Terry to have witnessed, is how some of his brothers and sisters that he served with were, because he just apparently was just such a wonderful young man. And
just knowing his sister,
Yeah, exactly.
If he's anything like his
her,
sister,
then you get an echo of what he was like. But nonetheless, she said he would just be heartbroken for what they've had to go through. And, bless his heart, if he had survived, he'd have probably had, effects of Agent Orange, because he was on the ground. I wonder about Uncle Cooch sometimes.
Well, Uncle,
yeah,
Uncle
we've had
Billy
Uncle Billy and different ones. And nonetheless, guys, we've got the wounded that came home through Agent Orange, and we honor their lives too, because we have lost a bunch here in Robertson County recently. We have lost way too many. Some that I've gotten to know through Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival and different events I've done, and we've lost some really wonderful people, and we just honor them today. And I hope you will spend some time honoring them today, and you'll get to know these folks. And remember, what you have is not without a very, very high cost. Enjoy it. They would want you to have fun, but remember that your freedom comes at a very, very, very high cost. Anything from you, Mark, before I kind of talk about what's coming ahead this week?
No, you go right ahead.
Okay. Again, my husband's here today with me, just kind of giving me a sounding board and help keeping me on track, as he does. But I do want to programming note, Lee Marie's filling in for me tomorrow. And then I'll be back on Wednesday is the plan, and it will be VSO Day with our Veteran Service Office. So we'll be glad to talk with them. On Thursday, my friend Penny Callis is coming in, and you're yawning on the microphone. And my friend Penny Callis is coming in, and we're going to be talking about the garden tour that benefits Martha Song. So she's coming in at 7. We're going to kind of tease that up a little bit because we're just a month out on that. So you can go ahead and get your tickets for that. And this is also TriStar Northcrest Week. So they come in on the 4th Thursday to talk about different things going on at TriStar. Easy for me to say. TriStar Northcrest. So they're going to be in here on Thursday. And then on Friday, we have a 5th Faith Friday. And Lee Marie has a surprise guest for us. So how about that? So Lee Marie's going to fill in for me tomorrow. And I hope you'll be here enjoying her, and that you'll join me again on Wednesday, and that you will have a wonderful Memorial Day, and that you absolutely will get to our History Museum today at 10 o'clock. They're going to cut the ribbon on this display. This is a traveling display that the Daughters of the American Revolution helped bring into our area. And they say it's really cool. And if you have not been to the museum to see the things that they have changed recently, you need to get in there. Janet was in with Becky Thursday last week, and we talked all about it. So you can go back and look at that show and get some more details. But they're going to have special hours all week, but it's free today. Get by the History Museum at 10 o'clock, and we will see you there. Have a wonderful Memorial Day. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless you. Thank you for joining us.
You've had a busy week. You worked so hard.